Stop! I get it. Oklahoma isn't for everyone, obviously. That doesn't stop thousands of people from moving there every single year looking for cheap real estate. But by the end of this video, you'll realize cheap real estate really isn't worth living amongst brain-dead Hicks. Today we're looking at 10 things you should know before you move to Oklahoma. We aren't looking at things every other lame AI channel has already gone over time and time again. You know, Tornado Alley, summer heat, underfunded schools, the usual suspects. We're looking at things that may not occur to a newcomer, but they should still know. Let's take a look. Number 10, your neighbor may be able to put up a junkyard next to your new house. In much of rural Oklahoma, county zoning is surprisingly limited. Oklahoma State University actually warns newcomers that without zoning, nearby land can potentially become things like a junkyard, an open pit mine, or even a dog kennel. So you're sitting in your kitchen looking out the window, enjoying your 5 acres you bought in Oklahoma for retirement. Next month, someone starts breaking ground on something. You walk over, you ask what's gonna go there, and they tell you, oh, a Chihuahua daycare. Just as you're getting used to the Chihuahuas making all that noise, you see on the other side of your property, they're breaking ground for something else. Find out it's a jackhammer testing facility. That's when it's decision time. Do I move off of my dream property, or should I just sit here every morning and have my dentures shaken loose during morning coffee? Now, in recent years, or recent months, I should say, areas around cities have been kind of getting their zoning laws up a little bit because a lot of these data centers are starting to go in there, and as we all know, a lot of people aren't into the data centers. There are towns in Oklahoma and Texas that are trying to ban data centers. One in Texas actually already did. San Marcos, actually. But in Oklahoma's rural areas, they're just kind of lax and you never know what's going in next door. In their cities, it's a different story. Cities like Norman, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa have complained that zoning regulations have contributed to the housing crisis each city is seeing right now. So if you're moving into the city, don't worry about it. If you're going rural, gotta be wary. Number 9, lakefront property doesn't mean you can do what you want. At several Oklahoma lakes managed by the Army Corps of Engineers, buying property next to the water doesn't give you unlimited control over the shoreline. Docks, vegetation removal, digging, and other improvements can require permits. So you can spend $500,000 on a lake house and still discover the government is essentially your waterfront HOA. Now this happens anywhere the Army Corps of Engineers are. They have some lakes that they've built, some dams, things like that, and if you get too close to their stuff, there are some regulations you're going to have to deal with. The good news is the Army Corps of Engineers apparently is pretty easy to deal with. Now I'm sure someone in the comment section is going to throw a hissy fit about some experience they had with them. Well, that's not everyone. Overall, people seem to think it's a pain, but it was better than I thought type attitude towards them. So while you're looking at that lakefront property and it doesn't have a dock, and you have dreams of driving the boat up to your dock, going to the house, having some sweet tea, make sure you can actually have a dock so you don't have to drive your boat up onto the shore like you're storming the beaches at Normandy with a beer belly and a margarita. Number 8, Oklahoma has a drug problem. Yeah, you know, a lot of people seem to think that if it's a Republican or conservative state, they're not going to have any drugs. Guess again. When you look at the drug use, they're ranked 8th in the nation for the most. And as far as health goes, they are ranked the 3rd worst for drug-related health issues. Their issues, though, are just like so many other states that have gone through the opioid crisis. They just still haven't backed off it totally yet. And of course, the big one for them is the one that sounds like math. Yeah, that's a key word on YouTube. If you actually say it, the algorithm will pick it up and I'll get demonetized, or at least this video will. I love it when I say something like that and someone in the comment section goes, "You don't have the courage or the balls to say it." No, I like getting paid. Like most people. As much as I like creating YouTube videos, this isn't a volunteer gig. The people that leave those comments would probably know that if they weren't on the math. And because everyone always asks, I'll give you the whole top 10 of the highest drug use by state. Number 1 is New Mexico, number 2 is Arkansas, number 3 is Alaska, number 4 is Nevada, number 5 is Missouri, number 6 is West Virginia, number 7 is Colorado, number 8 is Oklahoma, number 9 is Mississippi, and number 10 is Wyoming. That's according to Wallet Hub. Number 7, a contamination story that sounds fictional. Yes, if this surprises you, you don't know much about Oklahoma. Oklahoma is an oil-producing state. They'll dig anything out of the ground. They'll pump anything out of the ground. If it turns a buck, they're pulling it out of the ground. That's just how they are. Damn the environment, they're getting shit out of the ground. I mean, we're talking about a state where on the state capitol grounds, they have a freaking oil well. And that's just the fun stuff. The really bad stuff is the Tar Creek mining area around Ottawa County. It's still dealing with the legacy of lead, zinc, and cadmium contamination. Cleanup was actively continuing in 25 and 26, and the state still warns that water is contaminated and specific fish consumption in the area can be an issue. Yeah, don't eat the glowing fish with 3 eyes. Now, this one deserves far more attention from anyone shopping for cheap property around the northeast Oklahoma area. Do your research, especially if you got kids. Living in contaminated area is one thing when you're in your 50s or 60s. Those health issues take a decade or two to arise, but when you got kids, it's not good. Now, they've got a problem throughout the state. Oil and gas wastewater. Investigations show that hundreds of underground injections in old unplugged wells have leaked toxic water and heavy metal contaminated fluid into local groundwater and private water wells. And the Oklahoma Corporation Commission, who's supposed to monitor this, they have minimal enforcement. This type of contamination can't be solved with a couple Brita filters. Those things work great, but not that great. Number 6, heavy on the toll road subscription. The state has an extensive turnpike system, which everyone always loves. Everyone loves paying tolls to drive down a road that your taxes should have taken care of. But they got this thing called Pike Pass, which is like a monthly thing. You got to pay a subscription so you can go on the turnpike for free. Well, not free, you're paying for a pass. You get what I'm saying? If not, you get this plate pay, which is a billing thing when they photograph your plate and then they send you an invoice. And they say it's more expensive because of higher administrative costs. So living in the wrong suburb relative to your work can quietly add another reoccurring expense to your monthly bills. I don't like toll roads. I've probably told this story before, but we used to have one in Southern California. It was on the Vincent Thomas Bridge. It was only like 50 cents or a buck or something to go across the bridge, and they'd been there forever. Finally, someone did a study and said people were going other ways so they didn't have to go over the bridge. And what it broke down to is the money they were collecting as tolls were just enough to pay for the handful of workers they had working the toll booth. So they just got rid of the toll booth and called it good. But this kind of toll thing is where they get you. So you get Oklahoma, which is a very low tax state, but they still get you on things like this. New Jersey is one of the highest tax states we got, and they throw in toll roads also. That's why I always say low tax is really just an illusion because they got to get the money someplace. They just find more inventive and more camouflaged ways to get your money. Next thing you know, the kids' schools, they start having money drives. We had that down in Southern California one time. Get this phone call that they gave us some weird money, like every family had to pay $400 for half the year or something like that. I only had kids in elementary and middle school, and their voicemail was totally insulting. We're having our money drive this year, and this year we're not just requesting, we're requiring each family to pay $400 and something for each child they have at the school. This was a public school, not a private school. In the past, I think I donated $100 for the year for both my kids, and no, they wanted $400 per student per semester. But Oklahoma isn't that bad when it comes to taxes. They just do things like this to make up budget shortfalls. Bastards. Number 5, not everyone has internet. So there's a lot of people in the world still that just don't want internet, and that's a big thing in Oklahoma. A lot of the older folks, they don't want internet in their house because apparently the government's going to steal their brain if they have internet inside the house. Besides those people, there's a lot of rural areas that are underserved. Now, sure, they can buy one of those Starlink satellite dishes and have internet that way. It works pretty good, my understanding, but there's a little bit of a technology learning curve there. And people that are living rural, they may not be up to snuff on that type of stuff. So that remains a problem. It's just better if you get it into the house, plugged in the house. Well, Oklahoma is far behind on that department. The state still maintains an address-level broadband map, and its 2025 BEAD proposal still targeted more than 34,000 unserved or underserved locations. So your neighbor might have blazing fast internet, but then you get to your house and you're, oh yeah, it's not hooked up here. You gotta call the internet company. You're rural, so it might be 3 months before you get internet, if you can. The moral of this story, don't just take the internet available in this area. Check the actual address. I think most people just assume all homes can get internet. Or they already have it and it's just one phone call away to turn it on. You don't have internet, man, that could be a lot of problems. First of all, your kids will hate you. And then you have to do stuff with your wife like talk to her or read. It's like living in the frickin' dark ages. Me and my wife, I think, were married like 10 years one time and our internet went out. We ended up talking to each other. Weirdest thing, I found out her middle name was Marie. Number 4, your kid's school calendar may not resemble the one you grew up on. Yeah, this is a thing, and it's kind of spreading throughout the United States in little pockets around each state, really. So the state kind of got tired of this, and in 2026, this year, they passed some legislation for the requirements that the school has to meet, as in instructional days and hours. Now, here's where they always run into the problem. Great intentions, but this is going to be based on funding conditions. Now, a lot of you think, why is this such a bad thing to have 4-day school weeks? That sounds great for the kids. 1 day extra at home with the family. Well, not every family is sitting at home waiting for the kids to come home. Some people got to work, and the school, for better or worse, is great daycare. So now you got an extra day off, you got a 9-year-old, what are you going to do? You got to get daycare or you got to take a day off from work. There's also numbers, and it varies by state, but how police departments get more calls when the kids aren't at school. Maybe those nuns were right. Idle hands are the devil's hands. That's what they used to tell me when I was in Catholic school. Basically, they created a generation of fidgeters. So the moral of the story on this one, make sure your school is doing 5 weeks if you got to work and your schedule isn't really flexible enough to handle 1 day off a month or 2 months or something like that beyond the normal that they have. Number 3. Brain dead Hicks. Now this one it's pretty weird because first of all, one of the things I've noticed most over the years, whenever I do videos about Oklahoma, in the comment section, someone always leaves brain dead Hicks. Now this is a stereotype, but like Florida has Florida man, they've got, I don't know, Oklahoma man or brain dead Hicks. There's a lot of stories that come out of this state that make no sense. Example, in September of 2024, a man named Cody Adams reportedly couldn't find a ride from Stillwater to his court hearing in Pawnee. His solution was to take an unattended LifeNet emergency service truck and drive it there. Yeah, well, he got caught doing this. Tried to tell the state trooper he was only borrowing the truck. You have to admire the commitment, though. Most people accused of stealing vehicles bring a lawyer. He brought a sequel. Another man, just recently, June of 2026, deputies found a man named Jake Blue outside an Oklahoma County jail digging near the wall with a shovel. When they found him and started asking him questions, he said his girlfriend was in there, and he claimed he was digging the hole to plant some flowers for her. Sadly, he had some warrants and no flowers, so they booked him. Yet another guy in 2016 steal an unlocked Tulsa area patrol car and then streamed his escape on Facebook Live. Showed the viewers how the sirens work. He was eventually arrested near his home, and the Tulsa police response was, "Please, criminals, continue to film the evidence for us." Then, of course, in March of this year, a man with F the police tattooed across his forehead gets arrested by the police. His mugshot was everywhere. Oh my God, it was hysterical. I think my favorite of all of these is the man who killed his fishing buddy because he believed the guy was summoning Bigfoot to eat him. Yeah, Larry Sanders was convicted in 2024 of murdering Jimmy Knighton during a 2022 fishing trip. Sanders told investigators that he believed the deceased was trying to summon Bigfoot and sacrifice him to the creature. Now imagine this, forensic psychiatrists testified that Sanders had been experiencing math-induced psychosis. He was sentenced to life without parole, so at least he's away from Bigfoot. I could do an hour-long video on just people doing weird stuff in Oklahoma. I'm sure I can do pretty good on just about every state, but Oklahoma and Florida seem to be the king of the hill when it comes to this. Now, I know people are going to say Okies and stuff like that. Okies is something they call them, but that really has to do with the Dust Bowl in the 1930s. That was during the Great Depression when a lot of people from Oklahoma and the Dust Bowl really headed to California for work. They picked up that nickname and it's kind of always stuck with people from that state. But I like Brain Dead Hicks a little bit more. Number 2, they suck in too many categories. You know, Oklahoma's got this thing. They really don't excel in much. Quite the opposite, actually. When you look at their main categories, even crimes and corrections, that's not great. They're ranked 34th in the nation, and that's the bright spot when it comes to their statistics. You go down to the next category, natural beauty. You really can't blame anyone on this one, but they're ranked 44th. I mean, the entire state looked like a dirt parking lot long before the white man got there. One of the first things young families look at is education, and that's really not a selling point for them either. They're ranked 47th in the nation. Mississippi has better education than Oklahoma. They're still teaching kids how to use abacuses there. And the grand finale of their ugly stats has got to be healthcare, where they find themselves ranked 49th in the nation. In case you don't know, there's only 50 spots, so they're second to last. It's like every time they've had an opportunity to better their state's healthcare, they've turned it down. Nah, we're good. We don't mind that splinters actually kill people with infections. They've got great doctors, great nurses, great specialists. They just don't like to really put a lot of money into the hospitals, or enough hospitals. They've had a lot of rural hospitals close over the last year. So the overall statistic picture that Oklahoma paints, it's not good. When being 34th out of 50 on something is your bright spot, maybe it's time to do things a little bit different. All right, before we get to number 1, what do you think about Oklahoma? Would you move there? Did anything on this list kind of turn you off of saving money on real estate? Let me know in the comment section. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, catching dinner doesn't automatically mean you should eat that dinner. As of June 2026, Oklahoma DEQ says 76 lakes have specific fish contamination advisories for mercury, with 4 more being added since the last recommendations. The water still can be perfectly fine for boating and swimming, but frequent anglers need to watch which kind of fish they're catching and how much they're catching of it. I don't know, if I can't eat something out of a lake, I don't know if I want to go swimming in it. I'd have to have one of those deep sea scuba helmets on, covering up all my holes, getting a cork from my backside. You know things are bad when you're thinking about wearing a condom to swim. All right, what do you think? Would you move to Oklahoma? Did anything on this list turn you off about the Sooner State? Let me know in the comment section. If you like this video, you're really going to like this one. It's about why the hell are people still moving to Texas? Everyone have a great day. Be nice to each other.